obviously, we know who your two primary opponents are going to be, Jared Moskowitz and Ben Sorensen. This is going to be very competitive. I think that based on what you bring to the table in terms of your platform, obviously you've run for office multiple times before, but considering who you're running against, what would you say are some of the things that you think define you as being distinctively different than your opponents and would ultimately make you a better representative for South Florida?
I think the thing that makes me different is that I spend a lot of time focused on the issues that matter to the people. And I have found that there are so many issues that are near and dear to people. I'm the candidate that holds the most town halls of any candidate in this race. I'm the only candidate that has had direct impact when it comes to gun safety. I've literally been robbed. I have lost two nephews, one cousin, and an uncle. So this is a very unique situation. I am going to be the strongest and the most fierce fighter on gun safety issues. I'm the only candidate that has a platform for people with disabilities, the only candidate that has a platform to significantly and positively impact gender pay inequality, the only candidate that is literally putting together policies to curb the rate of veteran suicide. So I would say that there is a great deal of difference. I'm also the only candidate that has literally ran for over a year and 6 months statewide, looking and listening to all of the issues that people are dealing with in the state of Florida. And I believe that Floridians need someone that's going to go to Washington to represent their interests. And there are so many people that simply have not had representation, not only in District 23, but across the state. And we need to have a change.
Yeah, I think that based on the diversity of that district, it seems somewhat clear to me now, the representation that's been there and the representation that is sort of being thrust upon there now, if some of the more establishment people have their way, basically only represents a very small portion of the demographics of that district. And we know what we're talking about here. Like that represents a certain element of the population and sort of to hell with everybody else having representation. And I think that your knowledge and your ground game over the past year is definitely beneficial to you, because the difference is those guys, they haven't really been campaigning. They really haven't been campaigning up till now. So I think that you definitely have like a little bit of a head start on that.
You definitely also bring up a very good point regarding the fact that this district, when I saw how the district that Ted was representing, and I always thought, it seems to me like he really is and listen, I've met Ted multiple times. He's a good guy. I don't think he's, we can talk about some really bad representatives in this state down here. But it was a district that I don't think he wasn't emblematic of what the district makeup really was.
Correct.
Boca Raton and Parkland are obviously where the lion's share of the money is, and then obviously parts of Fort Lauderdale. But like you said, there's Coconut Creek, Coral Springs, Margate. These are working class areas, and it doesn't really seem like they've been getting the type of representation, much like the district that may change dramatically now, obviously with Sheila Sherfless McCormick representing the new 20 as it's carved. But the same is true here in what is the new District 25. Very often, the only concern, it seems like, with the Democratic Party is that they only want to cater to areas that have the most money. And that is something I'm sure you would agree really needs to change, as I'm sure you experienced when you were running for the Senate.
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons I actually decided to run for the Senate. And it's because when I look around Florida, I realize that it is broken down between those who have and those who have not. And those who have not make up the greatest majority of Floridians. And so we definitely need to make sure that everyone has a voice in Congress. Our campaign has always been about improving the quality of life for everyone, not just some, not just people who look like me, not just people who are in my party, not just people who are on the same social economic class, but literally for everyone. And I think, with what has taken place in the state with gerrymandering and DeSantis literally decimating the two congressional Black districts that existed in the state of Florida, now more than ever, we need representation that can literally represent everyone's interests and not just some.
Yeah, I think you're right. I hope, and I'm hopeful that people are starting to catch on to this now. That this is just like, we're so dysfunctional and disproportionately like elitist and top heavy in this country in terms of who has the power, and it needs to change. And I think that district in particular could definitely use a little bit of a shift to the left. We have friend of the show, Guy, asking, since you were talking about your platform, he's asking thoughts on Medicare for All and Green New Deal. And I was just saying, Guy, Alan's very progressive, but if you want to just comment on those, I think we assumed that those were like something you supported because you were talking about more or less common talking points before. So would you talk to Medicare for All and Green New Deal?
Absolutely. I believe that we definitely need to support policies like universal health care, especially, we got a chance to see the weaknesses in our healthcare system with COVID-19. We got a chance to see, what it was like whenever people were placed in situations where they needed access to healthcare. And for the most part, there are a lot of people that simply had to do without. I believe that healthcare should be a human right that is recognized in this country, not only by our government, but by people who feel as if they have a healthcare plan and they're satisfied with it. I want them to feel like that everyone should have a healthcare situation where they feel dignified to be able to go to the doctor, because it is very degrading thing to be sick and not be able to go and see a doctor. It is very degrading. And I know that for a lot of our veterans who have health care through the VA, a lot of them are having to travel so far. And I think there's a lot that we can do to close the gaps on how far our veterans are traveling when it comes to the Green New Deal. New Green Deal, I believe that we should have policies that directly, positively impact our ability to curb our carbon footprint. It's a shame that it is being branded in such a negative way. I think that if we are to move forward with any of those policies, I think that the best way to do that is to break them up and get them on an individual bills and just start like chopping away at each individual one so that we can actually get the policies enacted. And I think that would be a better strategy, because with the way that it is phrased, it has taken on a negative branding by the Republican Party. And it's something that Democrats are not very skilled with in party leadership. Republicans are great with branding. Democrats are not so much. And I think that we have to change the narrative on how we look at policy in the United States. And we have to make sure that we are not being reactionary, but we have to take the lead. We do represent the largest demographic in this country. But unfortunately, here in Florida, for the first time in Florida's history, Republicans have now taken over the voting bloc. I just looked this morning and crunched the numbers. Republicans outnumbered Democratic voters in the state of Florida by 165,911 voters. And I've been tracking this, and they are outpacing Democrats by 3-1. And so when it comes to legislation that the country is in dire need of, we have to make sure that we have the right messaging so that we can pull those who are on the opposite end of the political spectrum on board, and then we can get these policies passed.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.